All right, three, two, one. Hey everyone, Harry Welchel here. Today I have Kate, and we're going to be talking about how Kate sold an original piece of art for $3,000 in about a month working with me. So Kate, why don't I just turn it over to you? Can you just introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you and your business?
Absolutely. I'm 𝐂𝐥𝐢𝐞𝐧𝐭, as Harry said. I'm an artist, but my background is I've had a very kind of big career in fashion, and I always wanted to pursue my art, but I would always look at it like this is impossible. I'm never going to make any money from this, so I need to do something very sensible and work really hard in fashion, and that's what I did. And I had a very successful career, but I really got to the point where this wasn't for me anymore. And I started to build up my artwork, which I loved. But then when I got to pursue that, I really had this idea that I really couldn't make it successful. I couldn't have a sustainable income from this. And it was just kind of like some vanity project that I'd come up with. And I even set up another business so that I could sustain myself, because I just was totally convinced this art wasn't going to get me anywhere.
Wow.
So I was, quite kind of resigned and I would say disappointed.
Wow. Well, I want to get into that. Let's talk about that, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about your art first. Kind of, is there a specific style that you do, or like tell me about actually kind of more about the art and what you do?
Yes. So my art is very, some people would say it's personal. I don't think so. I think I've got a very specific style, which is, it's quite stylized. So, this is what I'm wearing now, is one of my t-shirts. So I create these kind of iconic beings. Sometimes the angels, sometimes the saints, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's somebody else. And it's really this kind of idealized world of, nature and love and connection and a lot of power, positivity, manifestation. And people really connect to that. And, I love to create these pieces because so many people relate to it in their own way and they see themselves in that and they see, some kind of like beautiful life in that. So I've been very committed to it. I have a very in-depth knowledge of art history. I'm quite obsessed with it. So my work is not just kind of decorative. It actually has quite a, in-depth historic background related to it. You can tell. I just love it.
That's so interesting. That's really, really cool. So what who in particular has your art really resonated with so far? What type of people?
So I have two, well, a lot of people really, really like it, but
That's
it's
collectors.
as collectors, it's quite interesting because a lot of women like because I do some fashion pieces as well, and they love that. But quite adventurous, quite entrepreneurial, independent men buy my either commission pieces or main pieces of art. And, I have some clients who've bought like 2 or 3 pieces just because they love the energy that they see in it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And how long have you been painting?
In this style and in this kind of era since 2012. But
Awesome.
I mean, I've kind of painted on and off, painted and created on and off since I was at university.
Okay, cool. And with that, like, have you through that time tried to sell your art through that, or was there a number of years or a period of time in which it was just more of a personal pursuit, and it's only been in the last couple of years that you've been thinking about really commercializing it or selling some of the pieces?
So in 2017, I had my 17 or 18, 17, I had my first exhibition, and I did sell quite a few pieces. I had another exhibition at the latter part of that year, and I sold other pieces. So I had quite, I did pretty well at that time, but it certainly wasn't, that was the only period. Prior to that, no, not really. I didn't even think it was possible.
Got it. Okay, cool. So 2017, had an exhibition, sold some there. Before that, hadn't really thought about selling things. What do you think, as you've grown and as you've started to sell more of your pieces, what do you think makes you unique as an artist and beyond an artist, as just somebody who helps their clients and makes them happy with the pieces that they get?
I have a real interest in people exploring their potential, getting closure in things in life, and celebrating their lives. I'm quite. I've done a lot of personal development work, and I didn't consciously bring this into my art, but it somehow came together. So when people connect with my work, I always want to look at what it is they connect with and really explore that so they can understand for themselves what it is that really fulfills them. And this is quite unique, right? It's really special, and it's very fulfilling for me because someone can buy a piece of my art because they think it looks nice, but it's actually not just that simple. And we've heard a lot of stories about, is art worth its value, whatever. And particularly, like very hot artists, like that whole era with Damien Hirst. I honestly think that people connected with that because it was some kind of controversial aspect to themselves, but it wasn't explored, so it's always kind of dismissed. Whereas I like to go really deep into what it is that fulfills people, has them access their potentiality, or really go beyond, there's something that they really connect with that they can't even fully understand until we explore it. And so recently, especially during this period where people are dealing with a lot of uncertainty, loss of people around them, not knowing how to look into the future, I've really looked at that and how they can get some sense of beauty, kind of power and fulfillment through connecting with my art.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think, what I've gathered kind of working with you is that you do a good job of, obviously when you make a piece, you have a vision for it, what it means, what it represents, but you do a good job of kind of drawing out what it means for the client and engaging in kind of that interplay between like what it means, the meaning to them, what's going on in their life, and helping them kind of work through those things through the art that resonates with them. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you do a lot of commission work as well, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I guess that means that the client is co-creating things with you in a sense. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's beautiful. So a lot of my own work looks like me, and so it's very personal. But this is what I do to kind of get my personal journey out there. But that's really how I work through things. But I'm very conscious that it's not all about me, right? Because I equally want to bring that out in other people. So I've had some beautiful experiences with my clients where they get the opportunity to have their own life kind of, captured, celebrated, and these very I don't want to say special, but very unique and important, loved memories. And it doesn't have to be one time, but, like a connection with family or connection with pets or with children, and to really have that in their life every day.
That's awesome.
I really feel like it's a privilege because they let me into their lives and I get to create something.
That's really cool. So let's go back kind of to the beginning of our relationship, maybe like the month or so before we were working together, 2 months. Like, what was going on in your life, in your business at that time?
So I was just I had got into this thought process of, I can never sell large pieces anymore. I don't know what happened. This isn't possible. I mean, it was really clear for me, like that was the truth. And I'd stopped really trying to do anything. So I had a big exhibition at the Art Center here in Hong Kong last year in November. So this is a really, kind of extraordinary place. It's museum standard. And I didn't sell one piece. It was the worst week of the protests, but I just didn't sell anything, right? And so I was thinking, something wrong with my work. People loved it, but they didn't connect with it. And so I kind of got into that, well, there's no point. And so I was really focused on doing other things. I was still doing my art, but I literally had said to people, well, I'm just doing it because I need to do it. And I don't expect to sell anything. And then, so I guess your next question is, so I saw you and I saw another client you'd worked with who was an artist, and he was, having this kind of explosion in his success of selling pieces. And I was just like, oh my God, what's going on here? So I
guess, I'm not that familiar with the art world. And the person you're talking about is Oliver, one of my other clients. And so as an artist looking on, and somebody who has had some success, like you've been in exhibitions, like in the conventional kind of art world since, you've had success to some degree. And what happened to Oliver was just still like really turned your head. That was not something that you see normally in the art world.
No, and I think also the way that he put himself out there on social media was just very authentic. It was like, I'm just doing this. I think whenever I see an artist on social media, I'm always no, that's not. When they're talking about selling work, I'm always a bit like, what is that? But he was just so authentic, freed up, and it really turned my head. And I really thought, wow, if he can, how is he doing that?
Got it. And so there was still, I guess, would you say, was there still a small part of you that thought maybe this is something I can do, even though you had been telling yourself other things for a while at that time?
Yeah, of course.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah. That's good. So what was it like, in going back a little bit back to that time where you didn't know how to sell big pieces, but you're doubting whether you could do it? Were there any frustrations? Were you doing anything at the time? Were you trying to solve that problem? Were you trying to sell pieces in the few months beforehand in any way?
So bearing in mind, a few months before that was like global lockdown, right? What I actually did was, I wasn't trying to sell anything. I was putting stuff on social media. I put together a program just to support my friends and family, people, I mean, I had like 100 people in a free program just to uplift them, right, during lockdown.
What's a free program?
A free, like, 21-day meditation with some art. That's what I did, right?
Cool.
So
okay.
I just needed to get my art out there. And so it was like a contribution to people of these lovely little drawings of what you could do every day. And so I literally was giving it for free, right? I needed to put it out there, and that's what I was doing. So I really had stopped looking at ways to do it. And then the other thing is, I didn't want to go into any exhibitions because everything was cancelled. And anytime there was exhibitions likely to be held, the likelihood it's going to be cancelled. So I just really, I would create things, but I had very low expectations. And that was very frustrating.
Got it. And like, I'm wondering, I'm just curious, like, did your background in the professional world in fashion, you probably saw a lot of different things, or exposed to different roles, different types of people, different ways of doing things. Did any of that kind of professional experience, when you were going through this time, did that influence your confidence of like, okay, maybe I'm not doing this right now well, but I know that there's a way to do it. There's other ways I could learn and things like that, because I've seen that in the past. It kind of kept you from just thinking like, oh, there's just no way that I can do this. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because if I see somebody else doing something, there's got to be a way. I mean, let's be, honest, that period was a bit scary, The world was kind of locked down. I don't think any of us were making that much sense at that point.
Totally.
And I kind of got myself out of that headspace, and then I don't know if it was because I was moving out of it, and then Oliver showed up. I saw him, and then I'm like, oh yes, of course. That's your way.
Cool. So, yeah, what do you think when we talked? Like, what I guess it was anything else? Did anything else pique your interest besides Oliver's story, in kind of what we were doing and what I was doing?
I saw a couple of other interviews you did with people, and I could see that people were getting results. And what piqued my interest was, like, you're very personal with people, so you do these interviews, and it really gets into like the practicality of how they got the results, what it was like before, what they did, and then what the results were. And it seemed quite simple. Simple as in possible to get results in a short period of time. And, I sometimes make things quite complicated. So I thought,
a lot of us do.
Yeah, naturally, right? And especially with Oliver, and then I saw another artist you were working with, and some of the other people you were working with were not kind of the usual bunch of people doing either consultants or doing other, they're in that art field, which is usually quite a complex one. Plus, around that time, I'd actually said to someone, well, there's got to be a way to do this, because I've solved just about every other issue in my life. I can't be like, this one is impossible. So, really.
Awesome. So let's like look at, the last 30 days or so we've been working together. You don't have to go into every single detail play by play, but maybe can you speak to 1, 2, 3 things at a high level that have really helped you make that sale and kind of improve in the business so far?
Yes, I can really point out critical things. One thing is just really getting clear on what you're doing, like really clear. and how you help people, how I help people, and to communicate that. Clean up all your social media. And actually, as I started to look back into it, and the amount of conversations I've had with people that I've known for quite a long time who follow me, all they ever talk about is, oh my God, your art. Oh my God, your art. And I just wasn't using my personal Facebook profile to really go all out there for that, which was like, completely, like a real missing opportunity for me. I would post stuff, but I wasn't very intentional.
So those are like two things, and I don't want to race through them because I think they're so important. So that first one, it's almost like I talk to you guys about getting clear on what you're doing and how you're helping people, and sometimes I'm concerned that it may not be clear to you all that like it's both for the client, but it's really for you, so you can have your head on straight, and so that when you go talk to clients, you just more instinctually like talk about things in the right way, communicate things in the right way, and understand like how you're going to just ring certain bells for them that get them more and more interested in what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. But I think there's another level to it. When we get our head on straight, we actually get very connected to our purpose.
Yes. I love it. Say more.
So I had a conversation with you, and we literally you asked me some things like, who have you sold to? What has that been like? And I actually had got people to buy commissions because I was so interested in their life and the things that were important to them. And that had been hugely fulfilling for me and for them. And I hadn't even really kind of captured that, but you captured that. You spotted that, and you were like, oh, this is amazing. I didn't. And then I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so powerful. And then I reflected, and I went back to, my previous clients who told me so much more about that process and the work that they have. And I just kind of moved on,
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like when that mindset shift, you realize like for a lot of folks, not everybody, but for a lot of folks, when we're selling something, and we're just starting out and we're kind of junior at sales, like we think it's about like what we're doing and our product and our service. And then when you actually can pause and actively listen to the client, you realize there's like 80% more that's going on and so much deeper and richer. And it's all about what's going on in their life and their experience and their perception of things. And it's like when you start tuning into that, you get fired up because you realize like you said, you get connected to your purpose. You see like the impact that you have in people's lives. And I think that's like the more you can tap into that, the easier the next steps become, like the lead generation and the sales and stuff like that, because you know that you're not just just focusing on making the transaction, making the sale. You know that there are ways that you're going to positively impact that other person's life immediately and over the long term, which is which kind of fires you up in that process and makes you more authentic and yeah, it ends up being better for your metrics and stuff as well, because clients like that and they want to participate in it, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
So then the other piece there was the Facebook, and I think what I wanted to call out with that was just I think you almost had like a mindset shift. Like before, you thought, oh well, this is my personal Facebook. These people are reaching out to me, but you didn't. And maybe if someone called it out, you would be like, oh yeah, I guess I could follow up with those people. Maybe they could become leads. But there was some like abundance mindset shift you had where you're like, oh my gosh, there's all these people that are there that are raising their hand in some degree that I can reach out to, follow up with, and ultimately like grow my business with. Is that a fair assessment of kind of what you were getting at there.
Absolutely. And then, the other thing was I have a Facebook page and I have like 5,500 followers or, people on that. And I didn't even think about them that much as potential clients. I don't know what I was thinking. I had this idea. I mean, this is how I was thinking was I'm here to have them, like to entertain them, make them happy, show them I'm good at this. I didn't even have it, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like just turned around.
we get in these like mental grooves where like we're like, oh, I'm just supposed to post on my wall and show people that I can do this, and then maybe you were thinking that they would come to your actual website and like express interest in that, or like who knows what you were thinking, but like we get in these grooves and then we have to get like shaken out of them. And you're like, wait a minute, like this was under my nose the whole time,
Yeah, and I actually have a massive network, and so in the past month, especially in the past like 2 or 3 weeks, as I've gone through the training with you, and only like the first couple of weeks, I just got so blown away by how many people I have within my network that would love to buy something from me. I'm not even selling them. It's giving them the opportunity, which I didn't give them before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's I'm so glad that this is one of the things you brought up, because I feel like when I had this realization myself, it fired me up. And then now every time I get to see one of you guys have that realization, it when you have it and then it sinks in, and you not only have the realization, but you have the skills to capitalize on the realization, you have the lead generation tactics, then like you have this deep, like quiet confidence that that like you can always go get another client forever if you need to. Like it's like you feel like you've solved lead generation, which is such an empowering place to be in. And sometimes we could forget it, but like I don't know, do you have the same feeling? You're like, I know I can go get more leads at will at this point?
Yeah. And I really didn't have that. I always thought I had to do something very big, like a big exhibition or do something. And also, a week or so ago, we had a call and you said, you just get to this point where there's just so much abundance out there. And it really, it really sunk in. Wow, yes. And then since then, many things opened up.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, can you like? It's like I don't know. I mean, you have to again, you do have to get certain skills and tactics to be able to see that. But it's also a mindset shift where it's almost like you're aligned with the universe in some way. You become more aligned, and it's not the universe. It's like you get aligned with your community, your network, your people, and you just realize how you can position yourself to, like you said, give them the opportunity to learn more about what you're doing. Give them the opportunity to have a problem of theirs solved by working with you, by purchasing an original piece of art, a commissioned piece of art that captures some sort of memory or moment of life for them. And yeah, anyway, that's really, really cool that you brought that up. What else? Anything else that's been big takeaways you've had?
I think there's there's a lot of things. There's some of it of how to keep conversations on track.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, and that I've taken into other parts of my life, because it's
cool.
so easy that people, as you say, take you off to Pluto or wherever it is. And I was just like, oh my God, yes. Like being so straight. And I think I'm pretty straight, but then I see how easy it is to waste time and actually what people are committed to by just letting the conversation drift off. And that, because I'm always looking for ways to be more effective, that was like a big opening.
That's awesome. That one, yeah, like once I started putting that into practice myself and seeing other people and teaching that, yeah, like there's a way of doing it well and not doing it well. Like if you can figure out how to do it diplomatically where the person doesn't even realize or necessarily that you're kind of nudging them back to what really needs to be discussed. Yeah, like they appreciate it so much because it helps bring them clarity. It helps them stay focused on what's on track. And yeah, I use that not only in like a sales setting, but I use it when I'm talking to you guys, when I'm talking to anybody. So what other areas of your life, if you don't mind me asking, if it's personal, you don't have to go there, but what sort of areas have you seen that be a useful skill?
A number of other conversations I've had, like people want to chat about certain things, but actually we're not going to get anywhere with it. And I've had conversations with people on other projects, and then they start talking about something else, and I think, oh, actually we're just going to waste both of our time there. And we're probably not going to get anything valuable out of it. And I'm quite good at making people feel good about the conversation anyway. So I don't cut them short, but I just keep them focused. So that's been really valuable.
That's cool. That's really cool. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about this sale. Like, can you speak to it a little bit? Like, how did it happen?
Absolutely.
What type of art was it? Yeah.
So I did that. I did 2 rounds of this meditation, uplift and inspire group during lockdown. And I literally did it as a contribution to people because I knew that people were dealing with stuff. And there was a lady in one of the groups, the second group, and her dog was very sick. And she was obviously really upset. And then the dog passed away. And then, she sent me messages afterwards. And of course, I'm a dog lover, right? And I lost 2 last year, 1 this year. And I really just got she was heartbroken and all the stuff she was dealing with. And it wasn't just the pet, but it was other things that had happened in her life. Like she'd lost parents recently. She'd had to relocate from a very, high profile job in another country back home. She was having some kind of career crisis, just like loads of things. And I just really got to see this was an opportunity for her to be able to celebrate that life of her pet with her husband and like all the happy memories they'd had together. And I've always celebrated my pets, and after I've lost them, they're still in that, they're still in the house, right? And so I just brought this up with her in a kind of like gentle way, and she was so like, oh my God, I would love that. And she's followed my work, and she loves it. I didn't know how much she loved it, but she loves it. So I just literally coached her of what difference this could make, and just be there. And actually, it's so much more, not just the sale. It's so much more like making a difference to her and what she was dealing with.
Yeah. So it's almost like your art was a tool, a mechanism for her to probably process the loss of her dog and also celebrate and be encouraged and reminded of, all, like you said, the good times, the happy memories she had with the pet. Yeah, it's like you said, it's just so much more than just like them giving you some money and them getting a piece of canvas,
Okay. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so when you got to the actual sale, like, was there any resistance? Was there any like
Oh,
challenges with making the sale?
yeah, yeah. So I was really open to it. I just stated how much it is. I said, well, we're friends. I mean, we're not close friends. We were colleagues. We've kind of kept in contact. We're not close, right? Or not close for the past, I don't know, 10 years.
Sure.
And I told her the amount, and she said, oh, that's so much. I was expecting like a quarter of that. And I literally just, I was thinking, oh, should I pressure? And then I just like trusted myself, stepped back, and I just had this conversation and said, I leave it with you. And I just stepped back and left some room. And then she came back actually with a really, it was over twice what she'd proposed originally. And I think you've also got to trust in the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's beautiful. And then other things have come in. People have just contacted me about other things, about like I have gorgeous scarves that I did of my paintings. They've just like suddenly wanted to buy those T-shirts, asking me about other opportunities. So it's kind of all shifted. There's been so much more abundance come into my life since I started this.
And I think what'll be an interesting question is like, was that abundance already there? And again, it just took a mindset shift and a new skill set to then see it and bring it down to a point where you could. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's cool. That's cool.
You think it isn't there, and then it isn't there. But if you think it is there, then it's there. And you just said to me, then you'll just get how much abundance is out there. Oh, really? I know it as a concept, but having it in reality is totally different.
I agree. Like it's still something that is fresh enough in my mind that when I think about it, it fires me up as well. What let me ask you this. Like I haven't worked with a ton of artists. I've worked with a couple. I'm curious. Like it seems like a lot of artists, they're all thinking like, I've got to like do things offline. I got to do exhibitions. Like, why do you think a lot of artists don't know how to use online techniques, or why do you think that they in particular struggle with actually making a living off of their work?
Because they are told you never make any money from it. And the ones that do make it are very, very, very tiny percentage. And they are usually made through, very specific dealers, art dealers, galleries. And there's a certain way that they do that. And some would say doing, like going out to canvas, to find ways to sell their work is selling out. I mean, I just think that's crazy, because I think you've also got to get what your art is about. And with Oliver as well, I talked to him on Friday, and, we both have this thing of, actually, we want to have our art contribute to people, have people get something so valuable from it. It's not an arrogant, this is what I'm all about as an artist thing. It's actually, I want to impact your life. So that's the difference. Did that answer your question?
It did, and it resonates with me, and it's interesting. I think I see that across a number of industries. It's not just in art. Like the way I would describe it in my language is like, some people have in their mind that like, if you're successful, it's because somebody like in the establishment who's already successful has recognized you and tapped you, and then now you've been blessed, and then your career is off to the races. And you can see that in like people thinking, if just if they're a tech company, if I can just get the right investor, right? If I can just get the right customer, if I can just get the right whatever. Yeah. It's across all industries, and I don't know enough. I don't know everything. So maybe that works, and maybe it still works, but it's just it's a mindset problem where people, yeah, think like actually going out there, connect with people, doing your own legwork to get yourself out there, that there's something like denigrated about that. And it's just, it's a tragedy because once people can get
Yeah.
around that and realize that they have so much more impact on the world, they can help more people. And they kind of have to like get out of their own way to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, makes total sense.
But
Yeah.
it requires like, realizing that, okay, if let's say you're an artist, but really in any field, it's like the actual work might be 20%, 30%, 40% of the task, but then the other stuff is like figuring out who you're serving, what resonates with them, learning how to talk to them, learning how to sell to them. And it's like people don't realize how much work all those aspects of things are to really make a sustainable living doing anything, if that makes sense.
That's true. And I think it's also, and that's why people go to galleries and agents, dealers, whatever, because they think that's going to solve their problems. But actually, it's just taking responsibility for your own career.
It's kind of outsourcing it and hoping that that person who has, in some degree, their interests are aligned with yours, but they're not going to be 100% aligned, that they're going to take care of you. And if you can just, like you said, take ownership of your own career, then if you go to those folks, those galleries, those dealers and things like that, you'll probably get better deals. You won't get buffeted around, but you'll also be able to do things direct as well. If that
Exactly.
So,
and whenever you look at like David Hockney selling a piece for what, 80 million, he's not getting that.
That's
right?
probably true. There's probably lots of people that.
Yeah, it's not going in his pocket. When he sold it, it was probably a very small percentage of that. So that whole system doesn't benefit the artist either.
That's an interesting thing. I think is unique to art, that I think there's a lot of people probably who see the really top artists who are selling things for multiple millions of dollars. And they think if I can't sell things at that price point, then I'm not doing it right or I'm not growing. And so I think a lot of you guys have this like dream of like, oh, okay, if you're selling at 5,000, how do I sell a piece at 50? How do I sell a piece at this? And you haven't expressed this to me at all, but I just think that is a unique phenomenon, because in other fields there isn't that such a wide variance of pricing. And I think if more artists can figure out, what, if I can just sell pieces at 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, and just sell more of them at that price point, there's so many people that you can serve and help, but there's very few you can at the $80 million range.
Well, they are not selling them. The artist is not selling them. And Hockney is what, 80 something, and he's been working for all
Forever.
those years.
Yeah.
And it's a miracle in himself.
So anyway,
yeah.
So back to you. Like, what can you speak to, like any other kind of aspects of your life personally, professionally, that have improved just from our working together so far?
Well, I spoke about the keeping conversations on track. It's just shifting my what's the point conversation about my art. And I was never going to give up doing it. There's no way. Like, I just cannot. But to have it out in the world and people engaging with it and buying it and having it in other countries and having it in their homes and all of that just makes me so happy.
That's awesome. So going back to our kind of sales conversation, if you can remember back to, we had a couple calls. Why did you decide to do business with me?
A lot of it was Oliver, because I thought, well, if he can do it, surely I can do it. And then you actually, well, I said it a little bit earlier, you laid out what could be the niche. And one of the issues is, if you're looking for, you don't use the term niche very much, but if you're looking for a business concept, often getting to that, like what I do is this, is very difficult. And people get really kind of tied up with that. But you created that with me. And by the time I'd kind of shuffled it around only a little bit, I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. You uncovered something. So that's very unique.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so at the, I think we had a call and then maybe there was a bit of delay. Like what kicked you over the fence, so to speak, to say yes?
I was thinking, oh, I can do this myself. And then I observed myself for the next week. So I took some action. But what I got was, well, if you're going to invest something into something, and you said to me, well, just do this and make your investment back. That's all it's going to take. And not only is it just to get the investment back, but taking those actions is a methodology which continues and continues and continues. And you also said to me, oh, well, I think you can do this, revenue-wise, for sure. And I kind of resigned myself to, maybe that wasn't possible. I don't know. It was a crazy conversation I kind of resigned myself to. And you had literally said to me, well, this is possible. And so making the investment, I knew that I was going to take the action that we agreed on, and I wasn't going to just have another kind of, or let it drift. I was really going to take action.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I don't know, I remember in our sales call, and I'm happy to go here, but I feel like there was a couple, do you remember I maybe said something or a couple times when I kind of, what I think I was maybe, in your eyes, maybe being a little bit rude, maybe I was trying to get the conversation back on track, but I didn't do as well as I should have. Did any of those gaffes that I make potentially hinder your ability to move forward?
Yeah. I mean, I was really like, oh, seriously, no, I'm not going to do this. And then after that, I was thinking, okay, so what was that? Why did you get annoyed? And I mean, look, all of these things work out perfectly because it had me look at what gets in the way. If I have a conversation that upsets me, and this thing, I mean, you were literally doing your don't go off to Pluto thing. And then when I heard it in the training videos, I was like, oh my God, that's it. And then I saw, wow, if you're doing a lot of these calls, you can really go off on a tangent. So I got something valuable from that. And I also got, if I'm going to get upset, that's always going to get in the way of anything.
Yeah, it was so on my side, just experiencing it, I was like, what was going on in my head? It was like, oh no, I think I've lost her. I think it's just it's not going to happen. And I'm a professional. So in sales, you're just, you don't make everybody say yes, you don't get all the deals, but I'm at a point where when I know I can help somebody and I know that they have the skills to do it. And then if something that either I do or they do, or the way that they perceive something creates some blocker for them to make a difference in their life, it just hurts me more at just an interpersonal level. It's not about the money. It's just man, what could have been if they had moved forward. And so when you came back around and said yes, I was so fired up for you, because I was like, I know this is going to be good for her. And then I'm delighted to see how quickly you've kind of taken action, shifted your mindset, really engaged with this stuff. And it's a testament to you. And I think it just shows how you can adapt, can evolve, and there's just more. I think there's more dividends and more growth ahead of you for sure.
Oh, there's loads. I think I've just scratched the surface.
That's cool. So would you recommend others work with me?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not doing any sales pitch. I'm English. We don't do a lot of that, right? But I would say there's a few things I got my value already. a few of the interactions, the connection, like to see that this conversation about being an artist is just nonsense, and actually there's other ways. And it doesn't matter what you do. There's certain methodologies and ways of being that you can be successful, no matter what you do. And that whole thing about all the abundance out there, I had it, as I said before, conceptually, but to actually pull it to me.
To feel it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and really to get a connection with what I'm doing as an artist, and to connect with that and how it connects with people who will engage with my work was priceless.
That's awesome. So who do you think in particular I'm a good fit for?
I think people who are committed and they've kind of come up against a block, like they're a bit confused with what they're doing. They know they want to do something and they're at that like frustrated point, and they're probably very, very capable, but there's a block somewhere.
Awesome. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think the way I think about it is like people that have had some degree of success, like they've had some sales, they have to have some expertise, some competency. But like you said, they're coming up against some block where they're like, why can't I get my message across? Why can't I work with more people? When I get a chance to work with people, they're over the moon and happy. But so how can I get more of those interactions, those more relationships? Got it. So if someone's listening right now, maybe they're on the fence, they're hesitating, why should they take action?
Well, what's the alternative? They're going to continue being frustrated. It doesn't make sense. And with the times we are currently living in, I mean, I don't want to be dramatic or anything, but I really believe we need to take actions to prove that we are not victims of circumstance, right? And your methodology is relatively simple to implement for the results that are available.
Awesome. Yep. It's like, I always say it's not rocket science. Doesn't mean for everybody, it's going to be quick. It doesn't mean that it's easy, but it is simple.
It's simple. Yeah.
Yes. And predictable as well. If you do certain things at a high enough quality, like you do get results predictably.
Yes.
Awesome. So, Kate, what is your number one piece of advice for coaches and consultants that are out there listening right now?
Well, if they want to, they should engage with you, get, have a conversation, see what's available for them, and really give up the idea that they're stuck, that this anything really is possible if they really take the action, and you can unlock whatever that block is with them. And then to connect with their purpose is just, one of the most extraordinary things they'll ever experience in their life.
Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah. So it's like, you're stuck if you believe you're stuck.
Exactly.
As soon as you think there are other ways, as soon as you believe nothing is inevitable, new pathways, new avenues open in front of you, and you make progress.
Exactly. And, as individuals on our own, in our heads, it's not always that clear, right? So you get a conversation with somebody else who can see the bigger picture of what you're doing and the potential, as you did with me. And then suddenly that shift occurs and, the whole potential opens up.
Awesome. Well, Kate, thank you so much for your time in this conversation. It's been really great. I've learned a lot myself.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Harry. Have a great rest of the day.
You too. Bye.